Hi. Whoa. I'm back. What do you think of the glasses, huh? It's a pincher of my nose. Really, since I've been living in Germany, I was trying to get a monocle just like Colonel Klink. But I think it's a little bit übertrieben. The Germans say übertrieben. That's exaggerated. But, you know, sometimes these things are fun. I really don't need glasses at all. I'm doing pretty well for 67. Almost 67. So, and I don't think I need the hat either. But Mike said to me, Mike behind the camera, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Mike said to me, the first impression, the first 6 or 7 seconds of the impression are very important. I didn't talk much about this trumpet, but I was at a competition yesterday and the day before here in Würzburg, not playing but listening. I wasn't asked to sit on the jury even though it was a competition about, actually a friend of mine wrote a lot of pieces for me. For example, Säckingen. The guy's name is Bertold Hummel, and it's the Bertold Hummel Wettbewerb. Actually, I even played for his Requiem. I don't know why his son didn't ask me to sit on the jury, probably because I don't drink the right beer or whatever. But anyway, this was it, the Wertungsspiel here in the Hochschule. And they played some pieces where you have to change back and forth, put some mutes in, or play without a mute, and very quickly. It's always a problem. Some people, you know, play the mute and then it falls down. One girl played and it kept falling on the floor and stuff like that. It was really terrible. But what I was thinking was, and another guy just put the mute on the stand and he went up to the mute and then walked away from the mute. You know, he played into the mute, but then you get very stiff. This horn, you don't have to worry about that stuff. And my good friend Heinz Poggense even put a trigger on it because you have to hold it with one hand and play with the other. The only way to get this trigger to work is to have it move from the palm of your hand. So I'm really palming these notes. That's actually palming that has to do with when someone schummels by Kartenspiel. It's called palming the cards. Anyway, so I'm all hooked up here. This is going through an old Toneworks, actually it's for electric guitar, and this is exactly the machine that Miles Davis was using when he did like Bitches Brew and a couple other things. I went to buy a Moog computer, and the man at Hans Thomann's, Hans is a friend of mine from way back. I even know his dad. And anyway, Ian, who was selling in the electronic department, I said, I want to buy a Moog computer. He said, well, a Moog? Why do you want to do that? I said, because I want to get the same effects that Miles Davis got when he was, you know, doing Big Fun and On the Corner and especially Bitches Brew. He said, oh, I did the sound for Miles when he did the tour to Italy here. I said, yes? Yeah. I said, so your name is Ian. I saw this. I didn't. Yeah, I'm Scottish. I said, oh, yeah, you write Ian different in Scotland, right? Okay. But he said, yeah, it's just, he just used a foot pedal machine for an electric guitar. And I like the effects, but basically I just want it really more for amplification. I've got everything on the horn, so I don't even have to have a backpack or some plug-in or whatever, because these things can be a pain in the ass. Miles has one on his horn too, but this has both. Careful, Mike. This has the power pack here, and it has the battery power supply here, and I can change the dynamic completely or the emphasis of one or the other microphones, because of course a mute is going to be then softer than the flugelhorn. And this comes out of the fourth valve slide and goes into the bell, which is a cornet bell, actually. Well, no, it was a Capri trumpet bell. The original of this horn that was conceptualized in Breslau in 1874 was a double, it was called a concert horn. It was a flugelhorn and a cornet together, and you had four, and it was a rotary valve. I've got a book about it. I think I showed it in one of the earlier YouTubes, just a sketch of it. But in any event, what I was trying to explain is that you can get some I don't get the balance just right, I can change a little bit to balance left and balance right. That's left and right microphone here. And complete balance. And then I can also like turn it up and play. Be careful it doesn't squawk. You got two microphones here, and you have to be careful. Now, one thing I got to tell the young cats, having electronic equipment on the horn and feedback and foot pedals and reverb is no compensation for playing the horn properly. I mean, this is not just gimmickry. If you can't play the horn, learn to play the horn first and add the stuff afterwards. Because it's just, it's like when somebody using too much vibrato because he doesn't have good air support, or maybe just bad nerves. I don't know. Anyway, I want to get something else out of this. It's a little bit more. Neil Hefti, that's from the film and the series, The Odd Couple, Neil Hefti. One of my favorite pieces or composers, I started the jazz department here at the university in 1983. Not Leszek Sadler, sorry Leszek, I got you to come afterwards because you didn't have a saxophone player. I gave you the big band afterwards. I guess you forgot. I don't know. Leszek just finished his teaching duties 2 weeks ago. And everybody announced, yeah, I started the jazz Abteilung here. And I'm sorry, man, you don't know. You even had a room at my apartment here in 1987. I don't think you remember that either. Anyway, so to get back to what I was trying to say is that you really need to understand that using gimmicks and whatever on your horns is no expression, is no excuse for practicing properly and knowing the repertoire and knowing the stylistic. And that's what the reason I started the jazz Abteilung, or the big band here, the conservatory big band that was taken over by the university in 2001, is because when you study to be a musician, you have to be able to play all kinds of styles. When I was a little boy, I played in the Salvation Army band, but I also played in the Regina City Police Boys band. I played in the Legion band. I played in every band I possibly could. And learned to play all kinds of music, brass quintet, brass ensemble in different sizes. I even played Barnum and Bailey's Circus, which is hard work, and the elephants stink, believe me. But if you have done all these different things, big band, university big band, rock bands, fusion bands, all these different things, help you develop an understanding of a greater concept of music, what music is about. And you get away from this idea, what jazz musicians think, oh, improvisation, that's jazz. No, they were improvising in the Renaissance period. Improvisation has everything to do about music from the very beginning. It's not just, but jazz has stylistic. And styles are very important to understand. I happened to fall across this book just recently, a very interesting book from Buddy Brisbois, who did a lot of solo and studio work in Los Angeles. It's a very interesting book. Building the High Register, 9 recorded solos. You know, even this is like music minus 1 with a recording in it. Look at, it's a real recording. I mean, look at, this is not a CD. This is like a shellac recording. There we are. Okay. Really. Buddy Brisbois. He was quite the character and a fantastic musician. And he had pieces also written for him and for different things by Lenny Niehaus also, which is a kind of an interesting kind of a guy. Lenny Niehaus was also the director of music for a guy named Clint Eastwood. If you've ever heard of him, who Clint actually was a pretty good jazz piano player, by the way. If you want to go on this, he even got some YouTubes where he plays with some classical jazz musicians, not classical musicians, but classic jazz musicians. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to show you this is that's a Constellation trumpet. That's on the picture here. Now that's the horn that Maynard Ferguson played when he was sounding his best, that Constellation. I had two of those in different times. I never liked them because they were a little bit too tight. I like a horn that has a bigger bore because I was not really that interested in playing high on the trumpet, but getting a nice sound. And I still have the original Constellation cornet. Whoops. I'll just turn off here. That my dad gave me for my 9th birthday. Now this is an instrument that was also used in jazz. It's right now in low A. You can really pull the slides out, set the slides because it has these things. Very much like my cornet that I'll show you maybe later. But it's the same Constellation cornet. You see the braces and whatever. And it makes a wonderful sound. And it's practically indestructible. There's no dents in the horn, even though it was made in 1963. There's not a dent on it. You don't want to take the lacquer off because, but it's pretty and makes a beautiful sound. If you get the right kind of mouthpiece, I got a mouthpiece here, it says here. Slide out a little bit too far so that D flat's a little bit too flat. Nat Adderley, Cannonball Adderley's brother, played this cornet, exactly this model. Sounded great on, he played a piece called The Workman. I think it's the Work Song. So little riffs like that, little themes like that, are the basis of jazz musicians that, improvise on top of that, make your own thing. A great guy in Canada named he used to smoke a lot of dope. I can't remember. He used to say, "Hey, you want to smoke some dope?" I'm sorry, I'm not really that. But Ron Brooks. I asked him, Ron, what is music in jazz idiom? I was like a kid, like 12 years old. I didn't really understand so much that he did. I said, well, how do you play jazz? What's jazz for you? He said, I just play the melody the way I feel it. I play my own melody. I listen to the chords and play my own melody. Of course, it's the theme, and then you start to improvise over the theme, making reference to the original theme and the original groove, but over the changes. And I can't say enough about improvising in all kinds of music. Even when you write a cadenza in a classical concerto, you have to use the theme and the structure of the music itself. And it's important for us to understand, hey, Mike, we're just going to go on. We don't have 15 minutes anymore, man. Mike, just keep going, okay? Thanks. Mike gave me the signal that I only have 1 more minute, but I think it's important for him to remember that we're over that hump now. We don't have to do 15 minutes anymore. Okay, Mike? You okay with that? You're not okay with that? You're okay with that. Okay, so anyway, I don't want to, well, for example, talking about cadenzas. Just very quickly, I have a cadenza right here, and I need a trumpet to talk about that. Oh, there's an E-flat trumpet there. This was a cooperation trumpet with Sigmund Cancel Company, and this has a very interesting seventh. Lowers it a seventh here. I was using it actually for a while. I had it made for an audition that I did in Vancouver, Canada, about 15 years ago. The solo trumpet job was opened there. I have to tell another story about that audition. It was crazy. But I wanted to play Ein Heldenleben on it, the first E-flat trumpet on it, which is actually a low E-flat. But I had so many instruments that I had to fly from Europe with me, so I decided to try to put it together. So Heinz Poggensaid had this, you push this forward, it opens this thing, and now the third valve go really like down into the low register with it when you move this slide, because it adds this here. But it also adds some weight to the instrument, which improves the sound greatly. Also, this plate is not some crazy thing like I'm trying to look like somebody else's instrument. This is made of copper, and it resonates and vibrates with the bell. It makes a difference in the sound. The heavy receiver and mouthpiece fitting perfectly up against the lead pipe help a great deal with the sound. And actually, I have this same trumpet in Canada right now. It's going to be sent back, and I lend it to a former student. And it plays in D and E flat. I think I made it even for a trumpet player that in Basel. What's his name? An English guy. He's actually from Wales. Anyway, he plays solo trumpet in Basel, and I made this trumpet I had this cancel that I made into a La Tromba version here in Europe, and gave it to him, and we played a concert together. And then in Harrisburg, I wanted to cancel to get him a deal, but cancel they were on the rocks by then, and on the ropes, I mean, and they went bankrupt, and so he didn't get the deal that he had hoped for, and eventually I just gave the trumpet then to Jack Cancel, and he sold it to a student of mine in Regina, Saskatchewan. And then he had some financial problems, so I bought the trumpet back from him, and now it's in Regina, Saskatchewan. It's going to be sent to me in December. The reason I'm talking about it is because I want to have it as a prize for the next competition that I do. And then maybe invite some of the guys that have been sitting in the jury of this competition, Hannes Leubim, and especially Hannes Leubim and Fritz Damrau from Zurich, and Leubim from Munich. Hannes and I used to play together in German brass. I think it was the best quintet. He thinks so too. I showed him an old picture of us from photos from 1982 or 81 in Bayreuth, where we're standing up on a hill. Wally Hilgers on the tuba, Enrique Crespo trombone, Wolfgang Gag, and Hannes and I. It was a pretty good quintet. Nice people. Only about the music, no ego trips. Very good. Anyway, so explaining a little more about this E-flat trumpet, the instrument that I'm going to have sent over here at the beginning of January, and has a prize. Have a prize for a competition I'm going to do in the spring. I've done competitions before. Let me just show you this. Maybe I didn't show you before, but can you take a look at this, Mike, please? This is a competition that I did 9 years ago. It's now 2022, and this is from 2013. This is a La Tromba trumpet, a La Tromba trombone, and a La Tromba French horn, and a La Tromba rotary valve C trumpet. There's another one over there, I can show it later. This is Wolfgang Gag. He's was a professor of horn in Munich for ewig. He used to play in the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra with me, together with Enrique Crespo. We started actually German brass as a trio. We were a trio, horn, trumpet, and trombone. And Kike, and Enrique, Kike is his name, he wrote pieces for trio, and then we did quartet, and we had a very nice, a very fine bass trombonist that played, his name's Martin Henry. He's actually a real estate agent now back in the States. He went back, he used to play in the Hofer Symphonica, a great guy. He plays very good Dixieland. I think he had a ball-bearing Dixieland band. Anyway, Wolfgang, he's holding the horn right there. And this gentleman here, his name is Andreas Kraft, Professor Andreas Kraft here. He's
he's from Stuttgart originally, still plays in the Radio Symphony Orchestra, and he was Enrique Crespo's coordinate solo trombonist in the Radio Symphony Orchestra at that time. And so I invited him because he was he's professor here in the university at the Hochschule. And Wolfgang was acting professor because they didn't have a professor for horn at the time. And so I asked them to be jury members. And then also the director of the Bayerische Music Academy in Hammelburg, a former ensemble student of mine, a very nice guy. Can't remember his name right now. What is his name? I don't know. Also played bass trumpet in one of my ensembles. I think for this concert he played. Is his name here on the placard someplace? Anyway, this was after 20 years. I started this ensemble as a part of the university, and then it became its own thing. Yeah, but this was, and Hans Thoman supported this also. But Hans also supported this. And Hans not only, these are the instruments from La Tromba, but Hans also gave a piccolo trumpet, a cornet, and a euphonium, and a couple of mutes, and whatever. And so, and J.K., Joseph Clear, also some mouthpieces. He's the guy, this is the company that makes my mouthpieces, very nice guy. And Marcus Engert, he was the man that does the gold plating, used to do all the gold plating for me here as a jeweler. Very, very nice guy too. He's beautiful 2+2 Jaguar, calls his Shetchen. Anyway, so we did this competition, and yeah, I think it says only 10,000 euro, but I think it was probably about 15,000 euro worth of stuff that we gave away. And I've never seen this trombone since, and I don't even think I got a letter of thanks. This horn, I don't know either. You know, you do things for people, and if they don't appreciate it, you realize, maybe next time I shouldn't do it. And in any event, it really doesn't matter. This is a very interesting rotary valve. I have another one here I can show you. We can talk about that. But these instruments were made especially for this Wettbewerb. I don't make trombones or French horns, but this was special one-offs for this competition. You know, Reynold Schilke, the great trumpet. Careful, don't hurt yourself. The great trumpet maker out of Chicago made also instruments. He made a whole set of instruments for the Canadian brass: horn, trombone, tuba, and of course the trumpets. And he's the guy that was the designing and the beginning of the Yamaha instrument line. He told me, Fred Mills from the Canadian Brass told me that Ren got a contract with Yamaha to start all their instruments over there, and was paid $1,000 a day in 1970 to do that, which is a pretty good wage, plus hotel and expenses and flight, $1,000 a day. So he probably had to do it very quickly. But anyway, let's have a look at this little cadenza here, so I can play a little of this E-flat trumpet for you, which I think is the cat's meow. Thank you, Mike. Which I think is the cat's meow. As a matter of fact, Marcus Naser, who's the nephew of Hans Thoman in Treppendorf, told me it's the best sounding E-flat trumpet he's ever heard. He also even bought a La Tromba trumpet once. Can you imagine that? He's, I think, the head of Thoman now. I think Hans has decided to he's got a lot of money. It's the biggest music house in the world. A lot of it's Fazant, and he has his own factories in China and whatever. He's sending pianos. He told me, anyway, I don't want to talk about that. Let's just talk a little bit about E-flat trumpet and the sound. So if you look here, Mike, at what I've written here in the cadenza, this is my own cadenza. And if you have heard of many of my recordings, you might hear that I'm sound cloud. And Mike, I think we want to render some of those CDs where I play Haydn and Hummel and
Leopold Mozart and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, where I'm conducting the orchestra and everything. I conduct my own orchestras in Prague and in Munich and whatever when recording these things. And it's difficult to record and play solo at the same time, which means you have to work with the orchestra before. So basically, what I'm trying to explain is that the cadenza is an improvised cadenza. You can see how the thematic is just, I'm just using ideas out. You don't want to start, trying to play some riff that you've been practicing, that has nothing to do with the music and really destroys the continuity of the piece when you're playing. You come to a cadenza. Actually, cadenzas this long are really too long. Only when violin players who started playing a long cadenza like Paganini and whatever, they got too long. A cadenza is really, a cadence. 2-5, 2-5-1, or 2-5-6, 4-5-1, something like that. Anyway, so I'm just going to play this cadenza, but once again, knowing that the theme. This is the first movement cadenza. So everybody knows that as Haydn Trumpet Concerto. Actually written for a keyed trumpet that I'm having also made right now, but it's, unfortunately Heinz Poggense died before he could get that finished. I'll get it finished. The corpus is still here. As a matter of fact, I'll just show you what that's about. Why not? When I'm at it, so I don't forget about it. Here it is. Oh, you even got the position of where the keys are supposed to go on, the holes for the keys. It's a 5-hole instrument. The original was a 5-hole instrument, exactly where it should be. I mean, this is typical Heinz Poggense. It's on a Lore beer, out of a Kneipe, where the Kellner writes what the beer cost and whatever, about the whole thing. That's the way Heinz was. Great guy. Anyway, so when these keys get finished, it should be actually an E flat and an E. That was the idea. E flat and E. So when I get that finished, I'll let you know. But anyway, to get back to this is a standard 3-valve piston valve. E flat trumpet. Oh, wait a second. I can't breathe at all. I've decided to stop playing crappy for you guys, because I think you deserve to hear me get serious about this stuff. Starting at Sunday in the morning, I've got a dancing school that's above me here that makes a lot of noise during the day, and it's basically, yeah, I'll take care of that. Thank you. I can feel that. Is that okay? So we're recording on Sunday morning because it's the only quiet time. I had some building site across the street. 3 years building on this bank. More money is good sense. And now they're building rebuilding some high school, just almost vis-a-vis here. So every morning it starts, and I got a bakery that has a delivery at 5:45 in the morning too. They don't stop at the dancing school until 11 o'clock at night, so I don't get much sleep unless I have a nap in the afternoon, which I do. When you get a little bit older, taking a nap in the afternoon is not such a bad thing. But anyway, I think it's important that you show what's going on here. Ravara. I mean, the orchestra goes, bum 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 bum. I think it's important to have that kind of thing. Play the trumpet with the Germans call it majestätisch, with majesty. The trumpet is a majestätisch, or has majesty, and has nobility. And Joseph Haydn was writing for the Esterhazyhof at that time, and the man he wrote this piece for, his name is Anton Weidinger.
he played also the natural trumpet, but he had a trumpet made. He had this clapper trumpet made. He went to his friend Joseph Haydn and he said, "Hey, could you make a trumpet? Could you write a trumpet concerto for me?" So Haydn said, "Well, what can the thing do?" And he showed him the keys and whatever. Because before the natural trumpet, you know, you couldn't play in the low register, chromatic or diatonic even, between the first and between the third and the fourth overtone. So with these keys, now there's a few guys that can play this clapper trumpet or key trumpet pretty well. There's a guy in Switzerland, he's got about 15 keys all over the instrument, and so it doesn't look very aesthetic for me, but he plays it pretty well. But I think that the tone is kind of inconsistent. I mean, you can make these things work. Here's a natural trumpet that has holes in it, which is basically the same principle. You cover a hole and then you open it to intonate, so that you actually change the complete length of the instrument and are playing it in another overtone series. Water in the horn. It's a beautiful trumpet. It was made by Adolf Eger, Reini Eger's father in Basel. This is a Reini Eger trumpet, but it has a Terrassi Sug. You can pull the Sug, and also an extra one here with a crook. So you can play it in D here, and you can also play in C, pure silver and gold, quite the instrument. But the idea of the holes is that when you have a key that can cover the hole, you can open the hole, and it's as another way of keeping the holes tight. My friend Mark Ulrich in Basel is a very, very good Baroque trumpet player. This is what I call a Baroque trumpet. It's not a natural trumpet because it has holes in it, and it's sort of you play Baroque music on it with the holes, but it's a little bit complicated to explain the whole thing. Anyway, he played a lot with Ed Tarr, Edward H. Tarr, and then later Ed was the mentored Nicholas Eklund, who did a lot of really good recordings for Naxos on the natural trumpet, but not on the natural trumpet, on the Baroque trumpet with holes here, 3 holes. My friend and former colleague, because I haven't seen him in like at least 10 years, so I guess he's not a colleague anymore, but I hope still friend, Michael Laird also developed one with 4 holes, open wrap. So long like this, but with 4 holes in England. I met him in Leeds on tour about 40 years ago, Michael Laird. Him together with Crispin Steele Perkins. They were playing a concert in Leeds, and I was in a church just practicing on tour with the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra. Anyway, to get back to what these holes are about. Well, these holes, if they had keys, would be what this key trumpet is about. And I'm sure that if you're interested in trumpets at all, you might, look at what a key is about. Sometimes they actually make trumpets, or this is a rotary valve trumpet that has some keys on it. Has some keys on it for intonation also. You see here. This is a water key, and this is an intonation key. It has certain very interesting characters of sound. Let me see if I can find a mouthpiece that should be properly put in this. Yes, a rotary valve mouthpiece. Fits right into the lead pipe. There's no steps, no bumps, nothing. So anyway, just to show you how the key works, the keys work. It's almost an intonation key, because the E that I play, this is C trumpet, the E that I played is flat when it's just a natural overtone, but if I open this, I go into another overtone series and it's in tune. It's higher.
Once again, take a good look, Mike. Now, sometimes you can even use 1 and 2 or first and second valve and a little bit of crooked first valve trigger, if you have triggers. This is one of the few trumpets. I designed a trumpet like this for Yamaha back in 1980 and had 4 made for the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra. And then I had Heinz refurbish this and developed a series of trumpets for Sigmund Kanstl that are now bankrupt, but this is was one of our cooperations instruments now. And I have one right now at a friend of mine, changeable bell, and I'm having a third one made, 3 different bells, B flat though. Anyway, once again. D, first valve D on any brass instrument has to have a certain length. The first valve has a certain length so the F is in tune and B flat. But as soon as you play the D, you're flat. And so a lot of people try to play pictures of an exhibition, that's Mussorgsky, that entrance. Any Schweinebauer, any pig farmer in the back of the hall can hear that note is flat. And if you try to push it up, you might crack it. But if you set the slide, let's see, I can either set the first valve slide, when I play 1 and 3, Papa does them going, or I can set the slide from the very beginning, the third valve slide. So I've got the position here. This is important to understand, that the instrument is just a piece of pipe. And the valves just allow you to play 7 overtones, series, the combinations of the valve. But you still have to intonate. And any trumpet that doesn't have a first valve trigger and a third valve trigger, you can't play in tune. Even this con here doesn't have the trigger on it, because they usually grab the trumpet like a pistol grip to shove the thing into your face, which is not necessary. Now, to make that very clear what that's about, I'll just take a con also, but a very special con, an older con than that. This is made in the late 50s, early 60s. This is back in the 40s. This is a con Vocabell. See, it has no umbuddlung, no bead. And I had a special mouthpiece made for it at Joseph Clear that I talked about before. This is the very first heavy mouthpiece I made. And the idea is that it goes into and goes over, so you get like how you put a bayonet on the end of a rifle. Now, it didn't have a first valve, moving first valve slide. It had a third valve slide here, because a lot of the guys used to play the horns like this. The so-called pistol grip. And you can move it a little bit here, but yeah, you're cramping there because you got to play this high note, you know, and you need to. But I play all the trumpets that I can. I'm fortunate to be able to get my hand in there like this and be able to move the slides. Now you can either set the slide, because you can set it, or you move it. And of course you have to use also the right valve combination to be able to move the slide.
You can't play just first valve and move the slide, otherwise it's just going to be even flatter than the natural overtone offers you in the first place. So to understand that there are certain things you have to think about when you play the trumpet. It's not baseball, you know, you just take a whack at the ball when it's coming, you know, and just hope that it's going to go out of the park. No. You have to think. And that's why there was a very interesting called a Wettbewerb in German, competition for trumpet that took place at the university yesterday and the day before. And Hannes Lloyd Beam and several other people showed up, including Fritz Damrau from Zurich, Hannes Lloyd Beam from Munich. And we're going to go over there, and I'm going to do a little interview with Hannes and with Fritz, if they want to, and also with Thomas Hummel, the son of Bertold Hummel, who's the composer I talked about at the beginning, about maybe doing a little competition where I could give away this D flat trumpet that's coming over from Canada, or one of my Tromba de catches. I have 4 of them. Maybe somebody that's interested in learning how to play that with hand reflection instead of valves or keys or holes. There's all kinds of ways of getting other overtones. In case you've never seen any of the YouTubes before, I'm just going to take that Tromba de catcher that I had made after a picture from Gottfried Reiche in the hand here, with a better mouthpiece than I played last time. Careful, Mike. Just one example, that F is of course too high. It's between, because it's the, what overtone is that? It's the 11th, 11th? 9, yeah, the 11th overtone. It's flat. It's too sharp to be an F, and it's too flat to be a G. So it's right in the middle there. But you can, if you shorten the resonating air column through hand reflection, you can then intonate, or you can take a higher overtone, like a 14th overtone, and shorten it and get a clean 13th overtone. Let's just give you an example. I'm going to play C, E, G, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, and the high A. Watch what I'm doing with the hand. Okay, I'm not warmed up enough to do this properly, but if you play too many instruments all at one time and don't get warmed up properly, it's more difficult than it needs to be. But I think you get the idea. Now, I have 3 or 4 other trumpets, and these are just, you know, component trumpets. This part you can change with that part and whatever, and use this bell or whatever. This bell has a completely different intonation. As a matter of fact, I adapted this from a guy named Gert Douwid. He had a rotary valve trumpet with this krantz here, and I was going to use it for the C trumpet that I have right there. I think I played a little bit on it, but I decided to use it here because my new instrument maker, Mr. Christopher Kornford in Diebach by Darmstadt, said, "Oh, you know, I can fix that. I can make that." He bends bells with ice. It's very good, so it's not going to, you know, break open or whatever. Anyway, the intonation is quite different than that. I think I showed that in another one, but I'm sure that anyone that really understands something about trumpet may be very fascinated. I'm fascinated by this. Gottfried Reiche was Bach's solo trumpeter, and Bach actually wrote the Christmas Oratorium for him after he came to Leipzig. And a lot of his other pieces, earlier pieces, he rewrote
for Gottfried Reicher, because this guy was famous before Bach even came to Leipzig in 1723. And, but Gottfried Reicher died in 1734, only 11 years later, at age 67. So actually he never played the Christmas Oratorium. It was written for him, but he died before. He died 3 months before the first performance. But of course, Bach had written, you know, a lot of themes and other parts of that in other more worldly or non-sacral music that Gottfried Reicher had played that spring and summer to develop the, you know, the technique involved with that. Everybody knows this famous. And see that F sharp, if I'm playing open, it sits right in there. So if I use the hand reflection, I can play that F right in there. It's not going to break apart, it's not going to crack or anything, because I know exactly where the intonation is. So this is not hit or miss. Of course you have to practice, and you have to have good nerves for it. And right now I'm more or less thinking about the time. I have to just check out, see what time it is here now, because I want to make sure. It's 11 o'clock, so the final concert of this competition is just started. And this young woman won the competition. Her name is Patricia, or is it Billeur? I'm sorry, I can't remember. I don't know if that's a... Anyway, she and two others from this professor, Laura Vuko Bratkovic. She's actually Serbian, I understand. They, you know, won first, second, and third prize. The third prize was given to this man here. He's a student of, his name is, what's his name? Get some comments here. Oles Burek. I think he's Turkish. I'm not really sure. Oles Burek. I'm not sure. But he studies with Jürgen Ellensson, who came to the Hochschule last year, from the High School for Music last year, from Austria. And he and another trumpet player from Austria, a friend of his, came from, I think he's from Innsbruck. His name is Lachner. Together with Fritz Damrau from Zurich and, of course, Hannes Leubim from Munich. Hannes' student didn't get a prize, and I think he had some problems. Moritz Eckert. His brother plays in the Bavarian radio, and his dad studied with me. So here in the university 40 years ago, 35 years ago. So I was very nice to listen to Morris. Morris played also very well, but nerves are a great thing, a very difficult thing in the competitions. And preparation is very important about endurance. And I was talking to them about the necessity of playing the proper trumpet for some of the things. They were playing a lot of French repertoire. And the French repertoire, classical repertoire, the greatest part of that and the most musically successful was written the end of the 1940s, early 50s, after the Second World War, when they were playing trumpets like this. This is a Selmer trumpet. It has relatively small bore. And this is the trumpet that Ramon Sabarich, this is the model Sabarich, as a matter of fact, Ramon Sabarich was playing. And if you don't know who Ramon Sabarich is, then buy yourself some of the greatest etudes that were ever written for the trumpet from Marcel Bitsch. He wrote the pieces and dedicated to Foivo and to Ramon Sabarich. Now they were playing these trumpets. So the pieces that were written by Jolivet and Tomassi were written for this
trumpet being played by people like Salvation for
It's very much more easy to control than one thinks.
because it's not too big. You don't want to play this huge sound. It's a solo instrument.
But also in the French orchestra's first trumpet. And Maurice Ravel, Pictures of an Exhibition. Maurice Ravel did the famous arrangement of Mussorgsky's work, which was originally for 2 pianos. Very brilliant sound. And you notice I played that D, that's flat first valve, 1 and 3 with that much slide. This instrument actually has a changeable, you can make a B flat out of it. And I have the same version. Oh, this is the instrument also that Maurice André was playing
When he won the competition in Munich in 1963, this trumpet.
or a model just the same as this one. Selmer. Now there were also very fine F bass and F trumpet, C trumpet I also have, and also the low F trumpet. But I don't want to get too much into that. I can maybe just show you the F bass on C trumpet. Play a couple of notes on it. I don't know, I haven't played it in a dog's age. Now this instrument was, for example, the instrument that was used as to be modeled after by Eldon Benge. You can see how the valve goes in the other direction here. This is very typical of the F bass trumpet. Second valve goes in the other direction. And I'll just play the same mouthpiece and the same piece. And I can hear it has more volume of sound, very bright. It's actually very thin metal here, whereas this, where have I got it? Oh yeah, this Selmer has what they call a Schmetterkranz.
See here, the Schmetterkranz? It's an extra thing here. The same kind of concept that Heckel was making for his trumpets, and that obviously
Mr. Gert Douwied in Munich is also, this is the same. You can get these in different sizes. Mr. Santner makes very good bells with different sizes of this. I have the next B-flat trumpet that I'm making has a very large one. I like that because it makes the sound more stable.
Also, F.E. Olds used to have those in, for example, the instrument that
Rafael Mendez played called this Olds Super. I'll show you a picture of that. I just happen to have pulled up this book. And you can see that what Raphael is, this was a book, Dale Laren gave it to me. To Richard, thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you. Dale Laren, yeah. He wrote it together with Dr. Jane Hickman, whose husband is a fantastic trumpet player, was a teacher in Colorado. Anyway, this is a wonderful book about Raphael. And there he is holding his Olds Super. Olds Super. Well, Zygmunt Kanstel used to work for Olds, the man that I worked with in California at the end of the 90s, and for whom and with whom I developed this rotary C trumpet that I played before, as well as the Piccolo BAG. That was my creation. You can see that here. And this is a little bit more advanced version, but first of all, I just want to show you the bell, or the kranz that's on the bell that Raphael is playing here. He's a famous trumpet player. You see here, there he is with his new version called the Mendez trumpet, but he actually sounded best on this trumpet. It's called the Old Super. And I had one of them. The mouth pipe was was replaced, and therefore it wasn't the original that I really wanted. I ended up selling it to somebody in Switzerland. But I have a student who has one here in town, and he doesn't practice very much, but I should get it back from him. Actually, he's a guitarist, but he won't sell the trumpet, and I understand why. He did lend it to me for a while. No, he did sell it to me for a while, as a matter of fact. I gave him a Schilke trumpet for it, a brand new one. But he couldn't find his way with it. He wanted the old the back, and so I said, okay, fine. So your trumpet, give me my trumpet back, fine, no problem. Nice guy. Anyway, but it's still here in town, and maybe but the thing about this trumpet is that it has this bead around the end. It's called the Schmetterkranz in Germany. And that means it allows you this, as opposed to this trumpet here, which has no Schmetterkranz at all. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have a bead. You can see here, it's very hard tempered. And the way this bell is made is another story altogether, because it's not, put together and then kegled, and this is actually built through electrolysis. An interesting thing. I should play a couple of notes on that for you too. Oh, by the way, if you listen to The Man with the Horn, I'm playing that. It's live when I'm doing a demonstration in Leipzig, when I was talking about the trumpet da caccia. And I had 31 trumpets with me for that lecture in 2.5 hours. I'm throwing 31 trumpets in 2.5 hours, which is really quite crazy. Just bringing all those trumpets and whatever was a real pain in the, Anyway, so, but I think this is a very interesting trumpet. I like the water keys, they're recessed, like they look like little toucans here. And they're 12-sided things. And I actually had this mouthpiece made to fit, or to copy to make, so that it really fits together. This is not an original Kahn mouthpiece. This is a Tromba mouthpiece that I made after, because the aesthetics had me, moved me to do that. It was made in 2 pieces by Mr. Roland Clear, who's now retired. He's well over 80. He made it for me, handmade, back in 1997. I played this trumpet one time with the ZDF Big Band, and it was so powerful that the guys sitting beside me playing, Bach B-flat trumpets, they had to move they were too soft. I mean, even as a lead, you couldn't hear the other trumpets at all. So they had to move the microphone a little bit farther away. But it was a nice experience with that. And I think that we'll make an end to this YouTube for now. Mike says it's getting too long, no one's going to listen to this whole thing, and he's right. So when you come back to The Man with the Horns, we'll talk a little bit more, and we're going to go over and do a little interview with Professor Hannes Leubeam from the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra. It was a long time. He used to be solo trumpet in the North German Radio Orchestra, in Radio Symphony Orchestra in Hamburg. He comes from Freiburg. He played with me in German brass together as a quintet. I don't think we ever played together in a large ensemble. Very, very nice guy, and a very, very good trumpet player. So, and then maybe some of the other people, and also maybe some of the students that played in this competition. And I hope you'll come along and tune in next time. Thanks. The Man with the Horn, Richard Carson Steuart. And please go to my SoundCloud, or listen to the other things, Clarino Project zu Leipzig, about the trumpet da caccia and whatever. I hope to hear from you if you want to write something to me. I'm always available, and I answer every email and every telephone call. So, thank you.